Let me start with a global sort of trigger warning or content warning, as it's now called. Some of the depictions and examples may be upsetting in what I'm about to say, especially if you have BPD, borderline personality disorder. Please know that I in no way intend to be insulting, and remember that these are just examples based on my observations of patients. So please don't come at me if you haven't experienced these exact things yourself or if you're offended by my examples. They're real examples based on decades of doing this work. I'm not pulling this stuff out of thin air, I promise you. Also, I'll be largely describing things in first person for the sake of convenience and not because I'm trying to diagnose everyone who happens to watch the video. All right, hopefully these caveats take care of some of the keyboard warriors out there that I've been experiencing. Here we go. BPD symptom number 1 is frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. What does that even mean? Okay, a frantic effort is an effort that's wild and hurried by definition. I describe it as an intense effort based in fear, which is what largely drives all BPD behavior in general. For abandonment, another way to think about that is as a fear of being left behind or rejected or otherwise just not accepted or embraced wholeheartedly in your interaction. Where does this come from? Well, generally it comes from disorganized attachment, likely due to traumatic experiences in your upbringing. The goal of the behavior is seeking reparenting of sorts, forming secure attachments with others, meaning seeking things like love, affection, nurturing, safety and security, compassion, etc., which are the things that our parents are supposed to give us unconditionally. Now, how do these frantic efforts manifest? Well, basically, the fear of abandonment generates a lot of anxiety when it comes to significant relationships, which often plays out as a high level of investment in relationships with others. Now, this could mean that you react to a relatively minor disappointment in a relationship with fear or unwarranted intensity, as if you were a helpless person about to be abandoned. An example from friendship might be your friend says that she'll babysit for you while you and your partner go on a date. When she's unable to babysit for whatever reason, you might shift into black and white thinking and construe that in your mind as being that you can't count on anyone for anything. People with BPD really want to live by the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have done to you. Treat people the way you want to be treated. But it's sometimes one-sided in that they have to struggle to have compassion or give the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the behavior of others. It's not because they're unkind, selfish, or terrible people, though, okay? Rather, it's because their own fear and abandonment issues are getting in their way and they can't see straight, emotionally speaking, if you will. Their ability to think logically is clouded by their fear and other intense negative emotions. So in terms of romantic relationships, it might mean that you jump into emotionally or physically intimate relationships very quickly. In other words, you may tend to love hard and fast in an attempt to gain security in a new relationship. The idea there is that if you go all in, your partner will see your level of investment in the relationship and your love for them, and they won't leave you. Or at least they'll reciprocate that and make you feel loved and wanted, accepted, and so forth. Now, this, of course, isn't always the case, and many people are actually pushed away by the intensity. Alternatively, you may suddenly cut off communication with someone in a relationship because you're afraid they'll abandon you. In your mind, there's this sort of hurt or be hurt theory. So you bail before you have a chance to be hurt, even if there's no actual evidence supporting your theory at that particular time in that specific relationship. Now, a third option in this regard is that you might unknowingly attempt to sabotage the relationship by testing the limits of your partner. This could mean doing or saying things to see how much they love and care about you. It could mean just testing them in general, pushing the limits, testing the boundaries. Now, it's largely a subconscious process, okay, which means you may not be fully aware of the goal of your behavior. But what you're doing is testing your partner's tolerance for your feelings and behavior. You could also be pushing them away before they have a chance to push you away. Now, this criterion could also mean that you have a tendency to create crises, whether consciously or subconsciously. For example, you might self-injure, you might self-destruct with excessive alcohol use, or you might even attempt suicide as a way to communicate your distress and try to get other people to rescue or care for you. Now, many people refer to this as attention seeking and may even dismiss it, but I like to highlight that if someone feels a need for attention this strongly, they're obviously hurting and need help. So we should get to the bottom of the issues for them and teach more adaptive coping skills rather than dismissing or just saying, they're looking for attention. This symptom could also manifest as giving too much in a relationship, such as people-pleasing tendencies or otherwise trying really hard to get acceptance and approval. You may be an expert at mirroring the emotions and behavior of others or becoming a chameleon to try to blend in with whomever you're with at the time. Now, it may mean that you try so hard to fit in that you end up doing things like oversharing, making inappropriate comments without necessarily realizing it at the time, or just otherwise crossing boundaries. Then when someone disagrees with you or tries to set a boundary with you, you may try desperately to get them to communicate with you, meet you, talk with you, give you another chance, etc. I refer to this as by any means necessary. That's the quote to help you remember this symptom. The idea is that you may be inclined to do things that keep people around and attending to you by any means necessary, if you will. Okay, quick TED Talk. Please remember that BPD looks different in different people. It runs on a continuum, like most things in life. It's impossible for me to capture every manifestation of each BPD symptom continuum known to humans. So these are just some examples, as I said, not a complete or always true description for everyone with BPD. I respect that your experience is your own. Please respect that my description is based on my professional experience with people with BPD and is not intended to be the gospel truth. And remember, the behaviors I'm describing are not excuses, but explanations to help you and others better understand BPD. And never forget that you can learn to control your behavior. Life can be different. I promise. Follow me for more on BPD criteria in real life, and be sure to share this with someone you think it could help. Talk to you soon.